What's going on, everybody? Well, with the release of Justice League, we have seen all of the comic book films that 2017 has to offer. So it's time to rank all of them. I believe I have 7 to talk about. Yep, 7 comic book movies that have come out in 2017. Now, to clarify a little bit, because I know there's going to be some sticklers out there, I'm talking strictly about Marvel, DC, and Fox comic book films. I know technically Valerian and a couple others are, Kingsman are comic book films to a degree, but I'm sticking within the big 3 here, so before you light me up in the comment section and try to school me on what are real comic book films, just know that this is about Marvel, DC, and Fox. So we've had a much better year than last year, but also to me some bigger disappointments than last year to a degree. So very interesting year for comic book films, and some of them are really great. Some of them I have no idea why they are so disappointing. But starting off with number 7 to me, as far as the worst and the most disappointing superhero comic book film of 2017, unfortunately, is Justice League, guys. The more I talk about this movie, the more I think about it, the more I discuss it, the less that I like it. I still gave it a recommend. It was slightly over the edge to be recommended in my review scale, and until I rewatch it, I will still hold to that. But the more I discuss this movie, the more I just get frustrated and irritated and, quite frankly, pissed off at all the stupidity surrounding the production of this movie, the changes, the reshoots, the swapping out of directors, the shoving it into a release date in 2017 when it clearly should have been pushed off because the CGI wasn't even finished. Still some things that you like about it. I mean, the characters are still, for the most part, who you want to see the characters as. The Flash, Aquaman, Superman, Wonder Woman, all of them are great for the most part. I feel like Batman got neutered a little bit, but for the most part, all the characters are who they need to be, which is the biggest thing this movie needed to do. The character interactions were really good. There is some good, genuinely funny moments. There's a lot of forced funny moments, though. The action scenes are decent enough. There's no big, epic, memorable sequence in this, like the warehouse fight in BVS. So just overall, this movie is very disappointing. It's no question to me why it's financially failing. Even though it's made a lot of money, it's failing as far as what Justice League should have been. Justice League should be like a $2 billion movie. It should have made $1 billion in its sleep, and it's going to be lucky to make $700 million. Lucky. So that's just disappointing. So number 7 for me is Justice League. Number 6 is the movie that I think I had the most hope for this year to be awesome, because I loved the first one so much, but so much of the direction change to me kind of turned me off to it, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, I still enjoy this movie. I need to rewatch it. It's the only movie on this list that's actually on Blu-ray that I haven't rewatched yet. I don't have a reason why, I just haven't. But to me, a lot of the character interactions, a lot of the character personality is still here, which is why I love the first one. It still looks great. It still has a pretty good soundtrack and everything like that. It's still fun. But to me, the movie is much more James Gunn. Like, they gave him so much more freedom, and to me, that didn't make the movie better. It's a lot more forced comedy and not natural comedy, so I wasn't laughing at this as much as the first one. It's a very mean-spirited movie. Like, the whole movie, Drax is basically just talking shit about how ugly this woman is over here, which is just awkward to watch. The whole storyline with Star-Lord and his father Ego, how that plays out. Everything is regarding the Ravagers and people being executed in front of him. Like, the movie is just so mean, and that's James Gunn to a T. That's his movies, but to me it just doesn't really fit Guardians of the Galaxy that much. Like, the first one's not mean, which sounds weird from a horror fan, but it was such a weird tonal shift that it was off-putting to me in this movie that was so light and fun in the first one, and now I'm watching all this brutality in the second one, and it just feels off. The storylines in this, all the, whatever the hell they were called, the gold people that were chasing the batteries, the fact that Rocket the Raccoon basically screwed all of them by stealing a battery just because they said not to, he wanted to. Just, the movie didn't succeed on the level that the first one did at all. It griped me quite a bit whenever I was watching all the things that bothered me about it. Now, if I rewatch it, it might be a little bit better because I know what to expect, but to me it was a big drop from the first one, because the first one's actually my second favorite Marvel film of all time, behind The Winter Soldier. So still enjoy the second one overall, but it was a big disappointment to me. That is my number 6. Number 5 is going to be SpiderMan Homecoming. Now, so far, this is it's the highest grossing comic book film of this year so far. I think Wonder Woman is slowly gaining on it. I could be wrong about that, but so far this is. And this was Spider-Man getting his debut in this new MCU Sony kind of collaboration. And I liked this movie much more upon my rewatch of it. I was pretty hard on it in my review, even though I recommended it. A lot of the comic book lore meddling and changing of characters really bothered me because I like the comics so much. But upon rewatch, it wasn't as egregious to me. I think Tom Holland's great. I think the villain, Vulture, Michael Keaton, was awesome. It's the best part of the movie. The things that didn't really gel for me was the fact that Spider-Man's kind of like Iron Man Jr. in this. Like, his suit has all these little mechanical powers and everything, and to me it just kind of, it took away from what made Spider-Man special. Like, Spider-Man's not supposed to need all this technology and homing devices and, you know, predator vision and all this kind of shit that comes in this suit. So I hope they don't continue with that throughout Spider-Man. Hopefully that was just for this storyline about the whole, if you're not a hero without the suit, you're not a hero at all kind of thing. But overall, I like the movie. It is enjoyable. It's a good Spider-Man movie. I still think that all of the Raimi films are better than this. It's an unpopular opinion, especially with the third one, but I love that trilogy. I'm unapologetic about it. But I do like this better than the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I do like Tom Holland's take. I do like the tone and the feel and some of the comedy in this. Although some of it's pretty bad comedy. Like, everything surrounding the who they call the Flash Thompson character. He's not Flash Thompson at all. But overall, I like this movie. It wasn't... Everybody was raving about how awesome this movie was, and I was not in that camp, but overall I enjoy it, so it is my number 5. My number 4 was actually a movie that I had forgotten about until I was preparing this list, and I almost didn't include it because I had forgotten about it, and that is the Lego Batman movie. Now it's the animated movie of all of these, so that was the reason why I forgot it, because I love seeing animated movies with my kids, but I very rarely rewatch them. I'm just, call me, you know, the grumpy old guy, but I just don't really... I don't gravitate towards animation very much when I think about what do I want to watch tonight. I don't go look at the animated movies. So Lego Batman was a lot of fun to me. It was a lot of really self-aware, self-referential humor as far as Batman and who the character Batman is and Bruce Wayne and how ridiculous it is in some degrees. And it makes fun of itself while respecting itself so well that it's amazing for Batman fans. Like, if you're a hardcore Batman fan, about every single 30 seconds, there's something that you can see, an Easter egg or a joke or something that you're like, oh, that's so awesome that they put that in there. It's not quite as funny or quite as good as the Lego movie, but it's damn good. I really enjoyed this, really enjoyed seeing it with my kids. It's got one of the most fascinating Joker and Batman rivalries in this. Really interesting take. A lot of the voice acting is great, the animation is great, of course, so I had a lot of fun with the Lego Batman movie. And it's an animated movie that I will rewatch eventually, so I enjoyed it quite a bit. That's my number 4. Number 3 to me is a movie that unfortunately I didn't have time to review. It was right when I was changing jobs and all this stuff, and by the time I could have gotten a review out for it, the conversation pretty much had stopped on it. That is Thor Ragnarok. Now, I knew I was going to enjoy this movie, but I enjoyed it a little bit more than what I actually thought that I was when I walked into it. A lot of the Marvel movies, to me, as much as I love them, they're starting to get a little bit vanilla as far as being predictable with the directions they're going to go, the tones they're going to go with, the humor they're going to go with. So I was expecting a lot of that. This is supposed to be the fun, jokey of the Thor movies, and it is to a degree, but it's just a fun movie. It's a fun, zany, wild, Guardians of the Galaxy style Thor movie. Like, whenever I did my trailer reaction, I called it Guardians of the Galaxy Volume Thor, and if I had done my review, I'd have made that joke again, because it's definitely taking Thor out of Asgard and plotting him right into a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. The same humor, the same tone, the same zaniness, the same visuals. It's all there. But that works to the movie's advantage for the most part, because I really enjoyed the first Thor movie. Thor the Dark World, I think, is it's right above Iron Man 2 is my worst of the MCU, while still being watchable. But for the most part, I think most people enjoy the Thor series in this MCU the least, if you took like kind of a poll of everybody. So this was a good kind of crowd-pleasing, colorful take on the Thor franchise, if you will, the Thor chapter of this MCU. And I think it works to the movies in the series' advantage. I think that Thor's a lot of fun. You really get to see Chris Hemsworth's comedic chops in this, and he's got really good comedic chops. The Hulk, which is the biggest side character in this, he's hilarious in this. I wish it had been a little bit more of the movie. And even though we'll never see it because of all the rights issues, I wish we could get a standalone Hulk movie. This feels like the Planet Hulk movie that they wanted to make, or the World War Hulk, whichever one it is, that they wanted to make, but they had to make it kind of a Thor World War Hulk movie. And for the most part, it does work as having both of those kind of tied into one. It doesn't feel like a jumbled mess. You get a lot of good characters like the Valkyrie character. Loki's back. Loki's really good. You get Jeff Goldblum as the director or whatever they call him, and he's a really kind of fun Jeff Goldblum style character that only Jeff Goldblum can do. A really fun, exciting movie that I had a lot of laughs with and I enjoyed all the way through. To me, some of the flaws with it, just like I had said earlier, the MCU style of the formula of their humor is starting to get very predictable. Like, there was very few punchlines in this movie that I did not see coming a mile away. There's a joke in the beginning of the movie where Thor is chained up and he's kind of spinning around, and this villain is talking to him, and every time that he spins to where he can't see him, he's like, oh, hold on a second, hold on, I'm coming back around. And it's funny when you first see it, but as soon as I saw it, I said, they're gonna do that at least 2 or 3 more times, and they did. And there was at least 2 or 3 other kind of running jokes where I knew exactly where the punchline was gonna be, and I was like, I practically could have turned to the person next to me and said, they're gonna do this, and watch it, and they did it. So it's a little bit predictable with the humor. They skate past some really big, important deaths as far as Thor characters, and they skate past them like they're nobody, like they're red shirts, which is weird to me. Like, big major characters from the first 2 movies get wiped out in like seconds in this movie, and they don't even hardly acknowledge it. They're very unceremonial with it, and I'm surprised I haven't heard more criticism for that. I guess people just really don't care about those characters, but to me, I was just kind of like, are we gonna address that motherfucker just died? Like, what the hell? And they just kept going with it, but overall, I enjoyed the movie. I really didn't have too many criticisms with it other than those 2 things, really. So yeah, I really enjoyed Thor Ragnarok, and I think that it's going to be a fun lead up to Avengers Infinity War. And hopefully this will make the next Thor movie that they make, because this is going to make him more of a popular character and more of a popular name, because this movie's been so successful that I think that whenever they do a 4th Thor movie, it'll probably be more in this vein, more zany, more fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. So that is my number 3. Number 2 is a movie that I didn't really have too much excitement for, because my hope was so low for DC films that I was like, it's probably not going to be very good, whatever, I'll go see it. But Wonder Woman was a great movie. Wonder Woman is my number 2. Wonder Woman was the movie that the DCEU and DC fans needed. It did everything right that it needed to do right. Really, the only negative that I had for it was that some of the villain aspects of it wasn't perfect, but Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman was phenomenal. She is so good in that movie. She's so good in that role. Patty Jenkins directed it great. I love the storyline, the fish out of water from Themyscira into Earth, and all the, or like America and Europe and everywhere where this world war is going on. I love Chris Pine. I love Chris Pine and her relationship. Just the way that the movie is shot, the way that the action scenes are shot, the way that she's the symbol of hope that she should be, the way that Superman kind of usually is in the comics, but they kind of make Wonder Woman the symbol of hope in this. Just really enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed it just as much upon rewatch, so it does hold up for me. So yeah, I've talked about Wonder Woman quite a bit. I really enjoy Wonder Woman. That is my number 2. But my number 1 comic book film so far, or well, no, not so far, definitively, my number 1 comic book film of 2017 is also my number 1 movie of 2017 so far. We still got one more month. Star Wars or something might kick it out of its number 1. It looks unlikely at this point, but stranger things have happened. Logan. I love Logan. Logan to me was one of the biggest surprises this year, because I knew the movie was going to be good, but I didn't know how good it was going to be. This movie hit me on so many levels, emotionally, with just how long that we have been with this character, this Wolverine, this Hugh Jackman take on Wolverine, and this is totally like the perfect closing chapter for that character. It's emotional, it tugs on every heartstring that you have, just from every direction. His relationship with Professor X in a career-defining performance by Patrick Stewart. I will be pissed if he does not get some kind of Oscar contending whenever the Oscars start coming out. I don't give a shit what comes out in December. If Patrick Stewart does not at least get a nomination, fuck you, the Oscars. But if you do, I love you. So, you know, we'll see. You know, take that with a grain of salt if you're watching this, if you're part of the Oscars. But anyway, Hugh Jackman, I mean, his best performance of Wolverine yet. Just as far as his relationship with Professor X, as far as his relationship with X-23 in the comics, she's like baby Wolverine basically, and she's for all intents and purposes his daughter. how all of those relationships and storylines come to a head, the way that he has to face himself both literally and figuratively in this movie, how bloody and gory and just brutal this movie was, the Western style of it. I mean, I loved everything about this movie. I don't think I had any flaws for it in my review. I think this movie is a fucking triumph. It is phenomenal. It is one of the greatest superhero comic book movies ever made. When I did my top 5 comic book films this year, as far as comic book films of all time, this was my number 2, and it's only because it was so fresh. I was gun shy about putting it at number 1, because sometimes you're a little bit clouded. You see something you're so excited about, it's the best ever, and then you watch it, and after a year, you're like, it's not quite the best ever. But Logan, I've rewatched it a couple of times. I think this movie is phenomenal. It's still my number 1 movie of the year, and I have serious doubts that anything is going to dethrone it as that. So I cannot talk about Logan enough. As much as I love the movies that are underneath it, at least some of them, like Wonder Woman and Lego Batman and Thor Ragnarok, like Logan is on a total different level. It's like 1, and then number 9 is Wonder Woman, and I love Logan that much. So Logan is awesome. Best comic book movie of 2017, and so far, in my opinion, best movie of 2017. So that is my ranking of the comic book films of 2017, guys. What is your ranking? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of debate, especially with some of the ones I have at the bottom. Maybe not too much debate on Justice League, we'll see. But what is your guys' thoughts on the comic book films of 2017? Post your rankings down in the comment section below. Be friendly, please, because we're all comic book movie fans. Don't try to get into these huge, dick swinging contests, but I'm sure it's still going to happen even though I put that PSA out there. So put your rankings down below, guys. Like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. If you want to check out my social media links like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, they are down in the video description as well as my link to my Patreon page, which is a great way to support this channel, to help this channel grow, and get cool exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to be a patron. So check that out, guys. And if you want to check out some of my other videos, you can check those out by clicking right over here.